Sound check. Thank you, birds. They're not going to stop. Earlier this year, I found myself in need, really want, of a new car. I had a few criteria. It had to be reliable, in contrast to everything else I have. It had to be road trippable. I decided it was time to go electric. And most importantly of all, it had to be a lot of fun. I bought a Polestar 2. And look at this scenery. It's a river. First of all, what's a Polestar? Well, I know what it sounds like, and I promise you it's not that. Polestar started in 1996 as a Swedish touring car racing team. They had close ties with Volvo, and over the years there have been some very special Polestar edition Volvos. Think of it as AMG as to Mercedes. In 2015, Volvo outright purchased Polestar Performance, and then in 2017, the company that owns Volvo, Geely, decided they were going to spin off Polestar into its own separate car brand, focusing on premium performance-oriented electric cars. The Polestar 1 wasn't electric, it was a hybrid, but this is electric. So that's what we have here, a performance-oriented electric car from totally not Volvo, I swear. Despite having a Volvo steering wheel, Volvo blinkers, Volvo styling, and many other Volvo parts, including the seatbelt buckle that says, since 1959. You know, the year that Volvo invented the seatbelt. This is the Polestar 2, so called because it's the second model from Polestar. Would you like to guess what the third model is going to be called? Here's a direct quote from their website. Polestar 3 shows that what comes after 1 and 2 is indeed 3. Polestar, I mean this in the most constructive way possible. That's stupid. So the make is Polestar and the model name is just the number 2. But actually, according to the title and other documentation, the model name of this car is Polestar 2. So welcome everybody to the Polestar 2. As you might expect from a brand new car brand trying to make its mark on the general public, this car features loud and prominent branding. I'm lying! The only badge on the back and the front of the car is this Polestar badge, which is body color, so no one can see it, and no one knows what it is anyway. I see people staring at this car all the time trying to figure out what it is because they don't recognize it, and it kind of looks like a Volvo, but also doesn't look like a Volvo. And the only place on the car it actually says Polestar or 2 is right here. I've had my double Polestar single 2 for just about 5 months, and in that time I've put just over 18,000 miles on it. I've been driving it a lot because I like it. I guess that just about sums up the review. Okay, bye. My car is the dual-motor long-range variant, although you can't get the short-range variant in the United States, equipped with the Performance Pack and the Plus Pack. The battery pack is 78 kilowatt-hours gross, 75 usable. The EPA range is 250 miles. The front electric motor is 150 kilowatts, and the rear electric motor is also 150 kilowatts. If you get the single-motor variant, you just get that front motor, although they've spiced it up a little bit to 170 kilowatts. Just via software, it's the same physical hardware. That means total combined power of my two motors is 300 kilowatts. In equestrian, that's 408 horsepower. Torque is 487 pound-feet. And the 0 to 60 time is? Let's find out! That's well over 60. That says 3.6 seconds. I don't believe it. Polestar claims 4.5 seconds, and I think it does a little bit faster than that. It doesn't do 3.6 though. This app is just garbage. Is not slow, is the point. While it's not available in the US just yet, there is a performance update you can buy for the Polestar 2 that comes in the form of an over-the-air software update that adds 50 kilowatts. That's 80 horsepower from a software update. That takes total power to 350 kilowatts, and it takes torque to well beyond 500 pound-feet. Like I said, it's not available in the US yet, but it is available outside of the US for any dual-motor Polestar 2. So you can bet as soon as that becomes available to me here locally, I'm going to be buying it, because that's amazing. Performance Pack, mine has it. That gets me these big spicy wheels, these big spicy Brembo brakes, manually adjustable Erlens dampers. I mean, you have to like take the wheel cover off and adjust a knob on them. How cool is that? And most importantly, gold seat belts. Let's be honest, this is at least 90% of the reason I opted for the Performance Pack. I mean, yeah, Erlens dampers are cool and all, but look! As you would expect from a performance EV, this does the fast very well, but it also excels at the not straight really well. This thing weighs almost 5,000 pounds. With me in it, it's pretty much at 5,000 pounds, and it's built on the same platform as the Volvo C40 and XC40. which are crossovers. But driving it on the back roads, you would never know. This thing handles corners just sublimely. Probably has something to do with the Erlin's dampers and the stiff, performance-oriented suspension. This thing is stuck. It corners flat. Frankly, the limits of this car are far higher than I'm comfortable approaching on a public road, which means that I don't really know how it performs at the limit. I've heard from other auto journalists that at the limit, this thing starts to push wide a bit, which sounds very performance Volvo. But unlike other performance Volvos, it does not have front biased power. It's symmetrical front and back. You might make the argument that rear biased would be better, but I'm perfectly okay with this setup. And it is not front heavy. This thing has a nearly perfect 50-50 weight distribution because batteries. Actually, in reality, it's 51-49, but that's close enough. No one's going to notice. If I had any complaints about the way this car drives, it's the steering. There's no feedback coming through this thing. It's completely numb. But aside from that, I love bombing around in my Polestar. Real quick, I'd like to tell you why I picked this over a Tesla Model 3 Performance. The Model 3 Performance is faster, lighter, more efficient, longer range, faster charging, marginally cheaper, and backed by Tesla's supercharger network. I won't say that Electrify America is unreliable, but if Electrify America had been in charge of rolling out bridges, we'd all still be using ferries. And all of that is true, but you know me, I gotta have something different. Teslas are absolutely everywhere. When was the last time you saw a Polestar 2 on the road? And this car is absolutely breathtaking from most angles. The Model 3 looks like a homeless turtle. The Polestar 2 has a real interior, while the Model 3 has the hospital waiting room with a TV and a steering wheel. While I'm at it, here's a list of things the Polestar 2 has that the Model 3 doesn't. Teslas are built in California. Meanwhile, the Polestar 2 is built in Volvo's facility in Luqiao, China, meaning that the build quality of this is much higher. That's right, you heard me. The Polestar 2 is a very dirty car. Give me 1 second. As I was saying, the Polestar 2 is an exceedingly practical car. First of all, it has a hatchback rather than a trunk, which means the opening is much larger than a trunk and much easier to load things in here. And as you just saw me demonstrate, it can be opened with the swipe of a foot, which is so handy, or I guess footy. I hardly ever use the physical button to open the trunk at all. Like any good EV worth its salt, this also has a frunk, which I can open here. It's not exceptionally large, but it does have it, and it's a nice place to store the very large and very thick cable dual voltage EVSE that ships with the car. It's nice that it's dual voltage, you just swap out the plug. The door handles are conventional. They're big, chunky, normal door handles, not the flush mount nonsense, which is a bonus in the winter. If your car ices over, it's going to be much easier to get into these things and yank on them and get your car door open. As a bonus, this gave Polestar a nice, convenient place to mount the puddle lights. There's one on each door handle. And you can lock and unlock all the doors from all 4 door handles. Lock, unlock, unlock, which should be a common feature, but isn't for some reason. What's that stuff you've been spraying all over your car, Robert? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's Avalon King's new Armor Shield Light. Ceramic coating convenience-ified. You've seen me ceramic coat a couple other cars with Avalon King Armor Shield, where I start out with a full detail and then a full paint correction, which isn't necessary, but is highly recommended. Then I do a full isopropyl alcohol wipe down of the whole car, and then I can procedurally wipe on the Armor Shield ceramic coating for the whole car bit by bit. That process isn't hard, but it is inconvenient. This stuff makes it a lot easier. First off, you don't need to do a full paint correction in detail. You wash your car in the normal way, i.e. a car wash, and then you just spray this stuff on and wipe it down. It's that easy. As the bottle says, super fast ceramic coating for an easy clean, super hydrophobic, makes it scared of water, maximum shine on your vehicle's surface. Apply to any surface, anytime, in any conditions, wet, dry, hot, or cold. This is so much more convenient than the other stuff, Far less likely to procrastinate if all you have to do is wash your car first and then wipe this on after you spray it. If you want to check out the Avalon King Armor Shield Light for yourself, there'll be a link in the description below this video, and thanks to Avalon King for sponsoring this video. This log is on fire! Inside the hatch is this flip-up cargo divider, complete with grocery bag hooks, a positionable and removable strap, and there's straps on either side, a cargo net, and places to tie down things. And if that's not enough space for you, this whole thing is a false floor, and it lifts up to reveal quite the cavern underneath here. There's at least enough room under that false floor to fit the upper half of my torso, provided a blender was involved. The battery's under the floor like you'd expect, so to prevent the rear passengers from having to nibble on their knees, Polestar made a cutout in the battery pack specifically for the rear passenger footwell. And to make up that extra capacity, they put batteries in the transmission tunnel. Yes, there is a transmission tunnel. No, there is no transmission in it. The only area where this falls short on practicality is this whole area up here, because you have your gear selector, all of this space, a single cup holder, and in your center armrest is another cup holder that you can't use because of that. Now, my favorite part about this is this also slides forward. No drinks allowed in your Polestar. Now, my question is, the Volvo C40, which is also built on this same platform and has to go around this same transmission tunnel and use this same amount of space, has two usable cup holders, the same gear selector, a center console, and a trash can. Why is this so much worse? The Polestar 2 was the first car to use Android Automotive. Not to be confused with Android Auto. Android Automotive is the operating system of the car, built by Google, customized by Polestar. And this has a lot of upsides. First of all, it's intuitive as frig. It's at least on par with, if not better than, obviously that's subjective, Tesla's infotainment system. It's Google, so it has Google Maps, and with Google Maps, it has Google Maps' amazing route planning that will route you to chargers, tell you how long you need to charge at each charger, what your state of charge is going to be when you get to each destination, etc. And in practice, this has been amazing. This is Google, so it has Google Voice Assistant, which means it actually works. Turn on my front heated seat.
Okay, turning on the seat heater for the front.
And if you're an iPhone user, this also has Apple CarPlay. It was recently added in an update. Though weirdly, it doesn't have Android Auto. And yes, everything is controlled through this screen. You've got your climate controls, you've got your vehicle settings, you can change the steering feel, one pedal drive, creep, charge, all that stuff. I don't need this on Max, thank you very much. So if this screen breaks or you're wearing gloves, there's very little you can do, but that's really just the state of modern cars, isn't it? Not just the electric ones. There's a wireless charging pad in here if you opt for the Plus pack, which is a nice place to put your phone if you want it to barely charge but get really hot. The f was that? This is the driver's display. Hit a button and you got a map, which is very helpful for navigation. One thing I appreciate about the Polestar over other EVs is the information it gives you while charging. While DC fast charging, it not only shows you the speed in kilowatts, it also breaks that down into volts and amps. And for AC charging, it'll tell you if you're connected to single or three-phase, which is silly in North America because our connectors only support single phase, but if you live in a Type 2 market, that's useful. You can also set the AC charging current down to the amp. The Polestar 2 has no on-off or start-stop button. You get in the car, it turns on, you get out of the car, it turns off again. I like this, it's very convenient, but I couldn't figure out a way to leave the climate controls on when I'm not in the car for, you know, dogs or passengers that might be in the car. The few times I've had to do this, I've had to leave my key fob in the car and tell my passenger to lean on the driver's seat to activate the weight sensor, which seems very silly. So either I'm missing something, or this is a missing feature. I haven't found this one to be an annoyance, but I might as well mention it. There appears to be no way to have the car in drive with the door open. As soon as you open this door, the car automatically puts itself in park. For simplicity, the Polestar 2 is only available with 3 different option packages. They're not set up in tiers, they're completely independent from one another. They are the Pilot, Plus, and Performance packages. As of 23, this is how much each one of them costs, and these are the features that you get with them. In addition, there's also the Napa leather seating package that you can get on top of the Plus package. As the name suggests, you get seats that are made from Napa leather. It's pretty expensive, and annoyingly, it's the only way to get ventilated seats in your Polestar 2. The non-Napa leather seats that you get with the Plus pack are made from vegan leather. In other words, pleather, but with better marketing, and they're just fine. Supposedly they're made from recycled plastic bottles, so that's kind of neat. If you don't get the Plus Pack, you get regular old cloth seats. As I mentioned earlier, my car is equipped with the Performance and the Plus Pack, but not the Pilot Pack. I optioned my car this way for availability. If I forewent the Pilot Pack, it meant I could have my car in as little as a month, rather than having to wait 5 years or whatever. As a result, I have an interesting mixture of options. For instance, I have adjustable Erlins dampers, but no adaptive cruise control. I have heated front and rear seats, but no blind spot monitoring. I have a full panoramic glass roof with a Polestar logo projected onto it with a little projector light, but no fog lights. And I love the way that these options are deleted. For instance, I have no front fog lights, but I still have a button to turn them on. Doesn't do anything. I don't have adaptive cruise control or active lane centering, but I still have all the steering wheel buttons to control it. These left and right arrows, these up and down arrows, they still click, they still have labels, they don't do anything. I've got a full 4 buttons on my steering wheel that don't do anything. Speaking of adaptive cruise and active lane centering, which Polestar calls Pilot Assist, by the way, this car does not have the Pilot package, but it does have forward-facing radar for the collision avoidance. It has the camera up here for seeing the lane markings. It has the hardware in the steering column to move the wheel, which I know because it has active lane keep assist. There's the lane. It's gonna yell at me continuously. And it has all of the steering wheel buttons still intact. So my question is, does this car have all of the hardware for Pilot Assist? It just has it turned off in software? Polestar Octibulog, I need to know the answer to this. Annoyances! I like complaining and no car is without flaws, so let's do some of that. Earlier I mentioned this car is beautiful from almost every angle. This is the angle that's the exception. I don't particularly like the back end of this car. It sits really high up off the ground for a non-off-road oriented sedan. There's lots of black plastic down here. Looks really crossovery. And the top half of the body tapers inward, but the wheelbase doesn't. So it's got them wide childbirthing hips, which is something I've had said about me. Polestar patented these full-frame mirrors, so rather than a piece of glass moving inside of a mirror housing, the whole housing moves, which is kind of neat. And like a lot of modern cars, when you lock the car, the mirrors fold in to give you extra clearance, but the amount of clearance these mirrors folding in gives you is silly. That's it. These 4 buttons in the center console, play, pause, the 2 defrosters, and hazard light switch, they're not buttons. They're capacitive touch sensors underlined by load sensors with a haptic feedback engine that will give a little vibration pulse to your finger to let you know when you've actually clicked on it. In other words, they're simulated buttons. Polestar, what was wrong with a regular button? These don't work with gloved fingers, they're vastly more complicated, and the haptic feedback is terrible. What? Why? And to make matters even more hilarious, by regulations, the hazard light switch has to be a physical button. It has to work with a gloved finger. If you press with your ungloved finger on this, just a light tap is all it takes to activate it. But if you have an ungloved finger, you gotta really jam on it, and then it comes on. The DC charging curve isn't great. The peak is 150 kilowatts, which is pretty good, but it only stays at that level until about 20% state of charge or so, and then it falls off pretty rapidly. Polestar claims the 0 to 80% charge time of this car is about 40 minutes, and in real-world use on real road trips that I've taken this car on many times, I rarely spend more than 30 minutes at a charger, so it's livable, but it could be better. On the driver's display in front of me, it shows me my remaining range as a calculation of the rated range of the car, the EPA estimated range of 250 miles. Meanwhile, the center display shows me my projected range. This is the range that actually takes into account how efficient the car has been thus far, which means that the car shows me 2 different range estimates that rarely ever match. And this is a Volvo product, and as Volvo products do, it shows me that remaining range in increments of 10 miles. Until I drop below 100 miles of range, then it shows me in increments of 5 miles. Not the highest granularity. You may have noticed all the things I complained about are small potatoes. That's because, and it won't surprise you to hear this, I frickin' love this car. This is the best car I've owned by far. Like I mentioned earlier, I've only had this thing for 5 months, and in that time I've put 18,000 miles on it. Fantastic road tripper, and on top of that, it came with 2 years of free charging at Electrify America, so these road trips are basically free too. And to a much broader point, living with an EV is game-changing. Home charging is so cheap, it's basically free. It's vastly more convenient than stopping at a gas pump any amount of time ever. You just walk up to your car and it has a full tank every time. And driving an EV makes everything combustion powered seem lethargic and archaic. My argument for EVs doesn't have anything to do with the environment or cost, it's mechanical simplicity. We've been using ICEVs for 100 years, so we've had plenty of time to get used to it and to not see the inherent issues involved anymore. But can you imagine if it was the other way around? If we'd been using EVs this whole time, and here comes along a company that wants to introduce combustion-powered cars, no one would go for that. First of all, you introduce electric drive into a car, instant refinement. You're going backwards when you go to a combustion engine. You put your foot down, it does a bunch of stuff, makes a bunch of noise, and then it goes forward. And then you have to do regular oil changes? Shouldn't they have engineered that out? You can't expect a consumer to do regular maintenance. There will always be a place for, and cars for, the enthusiast, like myself, that enjoys that mechanical experience, that likes the sound and feel of a good engine, that likes the feel of a transmission, and all the stuff that goes along with that. But for the vast majority of people that just need a moderately comfortable box to take them from A to B, and let's be honest, enthusiasts most of the time, electric power is 100% the way to go. But EVs don't just have to be boring commuters. They can also be enthusiast cars too. And they can be a lot of fun. That's what this Polestar has shown me. I'm ready for our electric future. Well, we have to work on a rapid charging infrastructure and battery technology and a bunch of other things before we have mass EV adoption. But when we get to that point, I'm ready. Goodbye, Malibu. Hold on, let me get around the curve. Oh, you think you're gonna go for it? Nah, brah. Thanks for watching. You all knew that I was already big into EV technology and drivetrains and stuff, but after buying this Polestar, that interest turned into a full-on obsession. As a result, in the hopefully near future, but at least the future, regardless, I've got a few electrification projects coming up. 1, 2, maybe even 3 of them. I may even be able to get started on one of those before the end of the year. We'll have to see. But I want you all to know that just because I'm into this new thing doesn't mean I've gone to the dark side, as I've heard so many people say. I'm still into the old thing. To that end, you saw my latest car purchase briefly at the very beginning of this video, and you can expect a video on that in about a month. So look forward to that. Yes, I'm still into the weird old crap. Just because I like the new stuff doesn't mean I don't like the old stuff. You can like 2 things at once. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. Special thanks to my patrons. I'll see you next time.